disappeared. Not because I wanted attention, I just wanted to know who would notice I was gone. I stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped explaining, and days turned into weeks. But nobody came looking. That's when I learned. Sometimes you don't find out who loves you until you start making it easy for them to find you. I thought somebody would knock on my door, ask if I was okay, maybe sit beside me, maybe say, I haven't heard from you. But the phone stayed silent, and the silence told me everything. I stopped answering messages one night, put my phone down and turned off the light. Didn't want attention, didn't want a scene, just needed somewhere I could disappear unseen. I wondered if anybody would recognize the difference between my silence and lies, cause I spent years saying everything's fine while falling apart one piece at a time. I was always the person everybody called whenever somebody needed me involved. I gave my time, I gave my trust, I showed up when it got rough. But when I needed somebody to stay, everybody somehow had somewhere to be that day. So I stepped back, stopped making noise, stopped pretending I enjoyed being surrounded by people who knew my face, but never knew the war taking place. And honestly, I wasn't asking for much. I didn't need somebody to fix me, I just needed somebody to notice. I went quiet just to see if anybody would come looking for me.
Nobody came looking,
Nobody knocked my door,
nobody asked what happened,
nobody said, are you sure?
nobody came looking.
When I disappeared from sight, and that's when I finally realized who was really in my life. I checked my phone at midnight, nothing. Checked it again at 2, still nothing. By morning I stopped checking, cause the silence became expected. Funny how quickly people adjust when your absence doesn't affect them much. I thought somebody knew me, thought somebody could read between the lines, thought somebody would've recognized that my I'm okay was 1,000 different lies. But nobody came, nobody called, nobody asked why I wasn't around. And I can't even lie, that broke something inside me. Not because I needed everybody, but because I thought I mattered to somebody. I replay every conversation, every promise, every I'm always here. And suddenly those words sounded different when nobody actually appeared. That's when I understood being surrounded doesn't mean you're not alone. You can have hundreds of contacts and still have nobody. You can call at 3 a.m. I remember picking up the phone when they were crying all alone, driving through the middle of the night just to make sure they were alright. I remember giving second chances, listening to broken circumstances, holding people together while quietly coming undone. I became everybody's shelter, but nobody became mine. I carried everybody's problems while hiding every problem of mine. So when I disappeared, I wasn't expecting a parade. I just wanted one person to say something's wrong, but nobody did. And that truth hurt more than I can explain. I stopped calling the people I once called family, stopped giving explanations to people who abandoned me casually, stopped chasing validation from people who only love me conditionally, stopped confusing being needed with somebody actually valuing me. I learned that attention isn't affection, and proximity isn't connection. A contact list can be full of names, while your heart is starving for one person who stays. I learned that some people love the version that gives everything away, but disappear when you become the person who finally needs them to stay. So I stopped begging, stopped reaching, stopped teaching people how to treat me. And somewhere between the loneliness and pain, I finally started learning how to save me. Maybe I stayed too long in places where I didn't belong. Maybe I confused history with loyalty. Maybe familiar faces weren't family. Maybe I kept watering relationships that had already died, because I was afraid of discovering who would remain if I stopped trying. Now I know Some people aren't meant to stay forever. Some friendships have expiration dates. Some promises are only spoken because people like how they sound. And some goodbyes don't need another conversation. So now, if I disappear, don't assume I'm angry. Sometimes I'm healing, sometimes I'm rebuilding. Sometimes I'm learning how to exist without constantly needing somebody else to prove that I matter. I used to think being alone meant losing.